I'm sure of that. Matter of fact, Brother Malachi knows who he is because he once told me about it. He sent me a video on this guy.
Oh yeah.
You know what we're talking about?
Yeah, I want to say it's the fellow that says he's the prince, right? Or the seed of David, that guy.
Yeah.
I just, good morning, brothers. Peace and y'all bless.
Bless.
I just got bits and pieces of the of what Delvin was discussing. It sounds like you have been hustled, brother.
Yes, I feel like it.
Yeah. That's why, you know, for me, my personal feeling about that is, I know there is no temple, so there's no money to be given to anyone. We're all in this captivity together. As I teach the word, I don't ask for, will never receive or take any money from anyone. And this is the reward is the most high. And some brothers tend to want to use this thing to enrich themselves. So I've never sent anyone any money. Never will I ever send anyone any money. And I don't ask anyone to send me any money. And if they did, for some reason, I send it back. But I have no avenue by which they can send me any money. And that's on purpose. So to teach this word, the great and exceeding reward is the Most High's grace, His mercy, His protection. And money can't do that.
No.
Malachi, may I say that you look mighty good with that kippah on, bro. I mean, that's you, brother. That is you.
Hey.
You need to wear that more.
Hey, look. Thanks to Sister Zakia for knitting me these beautiful kippahs. I do wear them. I actually wore the black one the other day, Brother Benaiah. So yeah, I really enjoy
it. Looks
wearing
good, but you wear it well, brother.
And thank you.
Peace and y'all bless to my brothers entering the stage. I don't know if you can hear me.
I don't see him. I see
any face. I see Brother Dave is connecting.
He is
to his audio, but
Prince Yisrrael, he was just here. I just saw his face a second ago. So
yeah, he was here just a minute ago. Henry was on his way home.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got in the room early, and he came in the room and said that he was out. You know, you could see he was out by the building.
There he is. He made it.
Okay, he made it. There you go. Good deal. Yeah, I was just telling him that you were on your way.
Yeah, I know. No, I've been there about 5 minutes, haven't I?
Okay.
You know it's bad when the host late.
Yeah. Let's see. So I talked to Dave. He's trying to get on.
Yeah, he's that's Prince Israel. Can you hear me? Hey.
Yes, I can hear you now. Greetings, brothers. Peace and y'all bless.
Peace and y'all bless, brother Israel.
Some technical difficulties over there, but I think we're all right. Good to see you all. Looking well. All praise to the Most High.
Yes.
All praise to the Most High. Always. What's up with Brother Dawid, man? Where's he at? Haven't seen him in a minute.
Huh? Brother who died? Dawid from
yeah. From the
Sinai Peninsula.
I sent him, but I think he's still traveling. He said last time I talked to him, he said he was in the mountains.
Hey,
there's Brother
Dave. Peace and y'all bless, Brother Dave.
Peace and y'all bless. Nice to see you all.
It's nice
as always,
you, brother.
Same to you.
Wow. Okay. Not got the guy from Dimona on yet.
No, he's not here yet.
I take it you sound like you have something to say, huh?
I might have one or two things to say, yes.
Yeah, I have a few things to say myself.
I'm just trying to contact him.
Hey, Delvin.
Yeah.
He's online, but he's not.
Oh, brother.
In that moment.
Right.
That's it.
Looking smooth, Dave.
Sorry?
Looking smooth, man.
Everybody wearing hats today.
Say what?
Everybody's wearing the hats today.
As the keeper, yeah, we all have got that on.
That is
See, Brother Benai's wife knitted me knitted me 4 nice ones and mailed it to me. So, you know, I had to represent.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, man. She's pretty talented.
Yes, I've got to wear them. I like the look too.
Looks good. It looks good, man. You know, I mean,
don't, a lot of brothers think, oh, assalamu alaikum, they think you're Muslim when they see you. You know?
Oh,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
you're gonna get that. that happens, you know. Yeah,
Hey, brother Delvin, what's going on? You got one mailed to you over there in England?
I've got one yet. I have to make do with this one for now, but it's okay.
Gotcha.
Keeps my ears warm for now.
It looks like one.
It does.
It looks like one.
I have got one actually. I've got 2 black ones actually, and I wear them every so often. I've got them. Yeah, I haven't worn them for a while.
They're cotton, right? They're cotton. They're cotton.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta wear cotton, man. You got to have cotton. You know?
Natural.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Natural fibers.
The black one's going to make you look like a Muslim for sure. I tell you.
Real. I know.
Yeah.
Or a Jewish man, one of the two.
Oh well, so good.
Well,
Were you just going to say oy vey?
What was that?
The way you went like that, it looked like you were just going to say oy vey or something.
No. Oh no, it's all good. It's all good. So you've been up to, Dave? Any more talks?
I just came off of giving 2 talks up in London, a common law and a right to travel talk. The interesting thing was we had a lawyer in the midst of the crowd, and he started off more than skeptical. He was almost hostile, but by the end of it, he'd changed his mind.
Cool.
So that was good.
Nice. All right, that's good to hear. Dave does talks on common law, and they're very, very informative. And I think most of the UK now, the more people who know me, they'll definitely get on that course to learn more about common law. Right now, we really need to know the law. You know, that's one thing where we're falling down, because people don't know the law. But I learned so much from the course. It was fantastic.
The common law is essentially the Most High's law. That's it, you know.
Right. So it's great. It's really, really good. Definitely recommend it to the ones in the UK anyway. Yeah.
You know, I don't know about you guys and what you are actually experiencing and seeing in your respective countries, but I do believe a lot of individuals, both of our people as well as the heathen, they're beginning to hear this law. Now, I'm seeing that some of those who may have been, I'm a Christian and and all this, and that's old stuff and all of that, I think many of them are beginning to reconsider their position as it relates to the Creator's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. And I'm thinking the only reason for that is because they're finding themselves under duress that they've never experienced before. And they're simply searching for answers. And I've always, taught that the Most High's law makes sense. If the Most High doesn't make sense, no one else can make sense. So his law is just, once you look at it and consider it, well, you know what, this is logical, this makes sense, this is sound. And so I see in my area, as I speak to different individuals who are not Israelites and those who are Israelites, it's clear to me that the Most High's word is not returning unto him void, because people are beginning to hear it and they are considering it. What are you guys experiencing in your areas?
I'm seeing this kind of the same thing. I think also what people are going through right now, they're finding it extremely hard, and to the point of almost considering suicide.
Hopelessness, yeah.
Yes. But they look at me and I say, well, no, I'm a black guy. This is a Wednesday for me.
True that. Everyday team.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is an awakening in the UK right now. There is an awakening, a massive divide of people who have taken, you know what, and the ones who haven't taken it, they're looking for more answers. You know, they're looking for more what's the word? Clarity on not taking it and their position, not taking it, and what they do from there. You know, so the law itself, the common law, is where they're finding out a lot of these measures that people are putting in, or the ones in power are putting in, are very illegal. Very illegal. You know,
I do it.
You know, the Nuremberg Code and common law. Go on.
I was going to say, I do have to add that I've been giving my talk about the Book of Remembrance as well, and you know, to a completely non-Israelite audience, and to be honest, there's a lot of shall we say unflattering things in there, and yet it's being received extremely well, you know. But it surprises me all the time, because I say things that will probably start people throwing chairs at me, but no, it doesn't happen. Yeah.
But Dave, to add to that, right? The Most High made it clear that if we were to walk within His law, statutes, judgments, and precepts, He will cause our enemies to be at peace with us. So I am thinking, I'm certain that because you're walking within these laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts, and you're espousing the Most High's righteousness, therefore He doesn't put a spirit within them that they would even rise up against you.
I certainly hope so.
I mean, after all, that is the only protection that we've got. Yeah. I mean, anytime one of us has stepped up to be a leader in any capacity, regardless of that nation, that man has been killed. That Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, you know, Marcus Garvey being exiled, whomever. If you stood up in the defense of our people in any way, you were ostracized, you were exiled, or you were flat out killed. So the Most High had always caused our enemies to come against us and to succeed. However, if we're to stand up in righteousness, espouse the Most High's righteousness, then He will not put that spirit upon our enemies to come against us and have any success. So therefore, all the weapons formed against us will not prosper if we are walking in the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. And I'm thinking therein lies our protection, and that is why you're experiencing what you're experiencing, though it may be words that may not be comforting unto our enemies.
Well, I'll give you an example. That I was in Denver a couple of years ago at a flat Earth conference, and I was on a panel of you know, about 6 people, and strangely a question was asked, what does the second Exodus look like on the flat Earth? And it was asked by a white guy. So the first guy who answered was the late Rob Skiba, and you know, he speaks about you know, Bible theology from his point of view. He literally spoke for about 15 minutes, basically saying, I don't know. And I was sitting next to him, and I thought, well, you know, I can't do anything but tell the truth. And I said, well, yes, the Exodus is coming, but you don't know who the actual Israelites are. They are what you'd call the African Americans. And I just laid it all out there. And I actually got, again, just to remind you that this was a crowd of mostly white Christian, you know, your normal Christians. And I got a round of applause for telling, you know, who the Israelites are and what's going to happen, you know, in the near future with them. So that, you know, again, I couldn't believe it. I was expecting to be lynched.
Now, what's going to be interesting is based on this knowledge being revealed, as the heathen begin to understand who the children of Israel are, I'm looking to see here in the near future how many of them start to change their behaviors towards our people. That's going to be important, because if they realize, okay, this is and that we are the Most High's people, and therefore we have to take a hold of the skirt of a man of Israel, then you would think that those who are of a contrite spirit would change their attitudes towards our people. And so that's what I'm looking forward to seeing here in the near future, to where that becomes very clear.
Don't you think it's already become clear? I mean, even though it was a George Soros controlled organization, you know, Black Lives Matter didn't have any black people in it. You know, I'm just saying. Just saying.
Yeah, yeah, I see your point.
But I might have to mute. I'm trying to get loud around here. Sorry.
I'm still trying to get all the. He's online, but he's not responding at the moment. So I got no idea.
Who's this?
The guy from Dimona.
The doctor.
Yeah.
Brother Kazriel?
Yeah, Ben, yeah. But I see him on Facebook, but he's not responding, so I'm not sure what week is coming up.
So everyone saw what he was saying. What I'll ask each one of you, what was the thing that most surprised you or shocked you or got you riled up by listening to him?
When he was talking, I thought he was literally talking about a person. Then he was saying that it's not a person, it's a spirit. It completely confused me.
Yeah. I second what Brother Henry has to say there. It was the inconsistency of the information. It seemed to contradict what he said later seemed to contradict what he started with earlier on, because he actually gave us stories in that regard, as I'm sure you guys saw, brother. So it's I'm not sure how he's trying to defend the JC idol, but you know, we were just being receptive and didn't want to make him uncomfortable, so he could get out all the information he had, and then we could systematically start to break down each point.
Well, as I said, it was the first time I heard anything like that from anyone at any time. And it was a very strange, strange scenario he gave of, you know, the prophets or the Messiah, as it were. And as I said, you know, on the video, you saw me say, I said, well, I've never heard this before. It'd be interesting to find out what other people think about this. And there you are, or more authorities on how to explain or to speak about what he was talking about. So I couldn't wait for this one. So I'm here waiting now.
You know, Delvin, Brother Yisrrael, as well as Henry, as I looked at that segment right there with the brother from Dimona, I could see the confusion in your faces. But at the same time, you all remained respectful that the brother may not feel uncomfortable, etc. However, if the truth makes one uncomfortable, then so be it. His points, from what I gathered, he made clear that this person didn't die for your sins or anything like that, but this person may have been a freedom fighter of sorts for us. And there is no such thing in the scriptures to even validate that point. And he said he would bring more documentation to validate the existence of such a person, though this person did not quote unquote die for your sins or anything like that, but some figure of that sort existed as a freedom fighter for us that stood up for the people, etc. There is no scripture to support such a thing. And he did not make it clear and concise that this is a Roman idol, this is fictitious, and the end, that's it. There's nothing to go beyond that, and that the house of Israel should drop this whole ideology and just walk after the Most High and the Most High alone, and that's it.
Well said, brother. Because he started quoting books that were extracurricular. They were outside of the Book of Remembrance itself, at which point it invalidates the information to a certain degree. Not to mention the fact that Brother Delvin and I actually asked, okay, say this is true, what is the significance of this so-called freedom fighter, and his answer was vague. I still can't quite put together what he was trying to say. So you know, I was like, perchance it happened the way you claim. Are we supposed to worship JC as God? Is he, you know, what is his role in all of this? And yeah, I'm still curious for him to come back and fully explain where he was going with that. But I actually had a question for you, Brother Benaya, because studying our brothers and sisters in Dimona via their videos on YouTube and such, I never actually heard them reference JC. So while you were there, what's the overall take on him and his existence and the role he plays in their society?
Well, that's a good question. During my tenure with the Dimona, I was there from the end of 2008 until about 2011. So I spent a few years with them. They don't espouse JC. They don't. It as vague as that brother sounded is about as vague as they are when it comes to that. The thing is, I think they use that New Testament because they know a lot of our people are in that New Testament. They'll use it sort of as a hook. They know enough about it to get you to listen to them. Then when you come in, it's like you realize you're weaned off of it, you know, where you're paying more attention to what the Book of Remembrance says. You know, he's not here right now, so I'm, you know, I'm just talking about my take from the whole experience with them. They don't buy that New Testament. They don't buy that JC died for your sins and all this other kind of thing. But they do sort of look at him as, they'll tell people, well, he was a liberator and all this, and during the time of captivity when the Romans, you know, took over Israel and all these things, and our people were, you know, kind of fighting against the Romans. But if you take a deeper, and this is what I want to say to him, and I want to have an opportunity to address everyone out there, you know, peace and Yah bless, all praise to Yah of hosts. When you dig deep into the scriptures, you find that during that time of 70 AD, where the Romans chased out, you know, we're under the impression that they chased Israel out, and then we went into Africa and then were dispersed and eventually taken into captivity. The truth of the matter, during that time, we weren't even in Israel. We had already been run out of there. Listen, let me tell you something. In the year 1896, that's a very key year, 1896, William Crowley, this is a brother, first started teaching that we are the children of Israel in 1896, okay? Now, if you go by Hosea, the book of Hosea, chapter 6 and verse 2, you're going to find out that it says, after 2 days, you know, we'll sleep, and after 2 days, we'll be resurrected. You know, that's not speaking about JC. That's speaking about a resurrection and to the coming to the knowledge of who we are. If you go back 2,000 years from 1896, you're gonna come up with the number 104 BCE. From 1896, 2,000 years going back, you find it's 104 BCE. From 104 BCE, there wasn't a person who was an Israelite who knew that they were an Israelite. The light went out. Yah prophesied that in Malachi. You can find it in Malachi. And you can find it in other scriptures. The light went out. Okay, so anybody after that time who was saying that they were Israel in the land was Esau, our brothers, the ones who still saying they Israel today. It was them. It wasn't us that the Romans had a fight with. That was them. They took over the land. If you look in the scriptures, throughout the scriptures, in Obadiah, even in Psalms 83, verses 2 to 12, Psalm 137 and verse 7, I'm giving you scriptures. You read those scriptures. That was Esau, Edom. They pretended to be Israel. This is not the first time they did that, because if you read the book of Esther, you find out once the script was flipped on Esau, when Haman tried to get Israel wiped out, they turned the tides and they were being wiped out. So they pretended to be Israelites just so that the death knell wouldn't fall upon them. And they celebrate Purim every year. Y'all ever heard of that Jewish holiday, Purim? I can tell you from being in the land, because I was there during that time, those Jews there, they dress up. They put on costumes. Why? Because back then they had to pretend to be Israel. You know, if they, hey, wait, you're an Edomite. No, I'm Israel. I'm an Israelite. They looked like us because they were our brothers. So they pretended to be us. And it was them who pretended to be us. When you read the book of Maccabees and all that's Esau. He wrote that, and it was those people that were there in the land. Israel's lights have been out since 1896 is when we first started waking up to the knowledge that we are Israelites. So there was no way anybody named Yeshua after, you know, whenever he would get, there's 3 different dates for his birth. They say 4 BC, some say 6 BC, some say 4 BC, 6 BC, and 8 BC. You know, I mean, take your pick, because like his brother says, Brother Yahud, he says, it's a made-up story. You see what I'm saying? There's no such thing. This person never existed. And so says the scriptures. Okay, this is scriptures that I'm telling you about. So where he gets off with you know, well, you know, he was a real prince. No, he wasn't. Anybody back then during that time, since that time, from 104 BCE, if they were talking about their Israelites, they weren't Israelites. They were Jews, Edomites, who pretended to be Israel. You know, and they still pretending to be Israel to this day. Those Jews, they say, well, they're from the tribe of Judah. No, they're not. It's really Yahudah, but they said that they're from the tribe of Yahudah. So that was part of the pushback that I had for the brother. I mean, you know, you can't go against. I'm using the scriptures to back up my claim. You know, you can turn to these scriptures and you can find out. I mean, we're not here to be reading the scriptures to one another, but that's the truth of the matter. There was nobody back then, Israel, because Yah said we would be cut off, and we were cut off. They tried to wipe our memory out, wipe us off the map as far as knowledge. You see, but in 1896, the light came on. Brother William Crowley started teaching his congregation that, hey, we're the Israelites. Now they're still in the New Testament, so they're thrown off. There's still some people that is carrying the torch for that church, so to speak. But that's when it first, and it wasn't too long after that these Edomites, these same Esau, these same people that run the world pretty much, decided, oh, wait a minute, these brothers and sisters, they waking up. They went into Israel to take it over. I think it was 1898 or 19. It was the turn of the 20th century. You know, is when they went to Israel to secure the land to keep us out. So, like Brother Delvin said, he went to Israel. I think it was 2019. They turned them around. Well, I'm not surprised they turned you around. They're always going to turn us around. They don't want us in that land. That's why they're giving them so much problems, the Dimona people, so many problems today. Now, I don't know if you have seen this, but there's a group, they call themselves B'nai Manasseh. It was in the news lately. You can look this up, B'nai Manasseh. Now, these are people from India. They look like Asians, okay? And they say that they're from the tribe of Manasseh, and they're going into the land, okay? They're welcoming them into the land. They say, well, they've been knowing Israel for so many years, and it goes back. They've always practiced the Sabbath, and they practice all this other kind of stuff. My wife has a book. Well, she doesn't have it. She borrowed it from the library, called The Last Kings of Shanghai. And it's a very interesting book. In this book, it speaks about Edomites, Esau. It was a family, a very wealthy family, who went into to places like China and India. Okay, years ago, I think they started going into there in the 15 or 1600s, okay? And they pretty much took over the economy there. There was some things, I mean, she read the book, I didn't read it. She didn't finish reading all of it. She plans on purchasing the book, maybe from Amazon or something. The Last Kings of Shanghai. But this book talks about how this family became wealthy there and they had a lot of children. So I would imagine these people that call themselves B'nai Moshe, they're descendants of this families or some relatives of this family who went into those regions during that time. That's their only connection. But that's Esau. You know, you have to listen, brothers. You have to know your enemy's moves. You have to know who he is. You know, in the book, it says that he would rule by his sword. If you look at the whole story of Esau and Jacob, Esau was mad because he sold his birthright to Jacob. Okay, he went in to try to get the blessings. His father said, "Oh man, your brother got it. I don't know what to do with you." He started crying and cutting up until they said, "You're gonna have dominion, but you're gonna rule by your sword," and that is true. This man is still ruling by his sword today. Okay, because he used forces of arms to get his way pushed on the earth. Okay, and he's been kicked out of many countries over the years, over the centuries, and he was kicked out of the land back during the time of the Romans. Okay, so that wasn't us back then, that was them. And they've been kicked out of places like France, they've been kicked out of Germany, they've been kicked out of just about every place they tried to lay a foothold in England, or in England and in Europe, they tried to lay a foothold and they've been kicked out. You see, a very good book I would tell you to get is Nation of Islam book, the one where it's the secret relationship between blacks and Jews. You know, I have the first and second volume. It's very good reading when it comes to historical context. Okay, it'll give you an idea what these people been up to. It lists all the places, the countries that they were in and that they were kicked out, what year they were kicked out, and everything surrounding it, why they were kicked out, the whole bit. You know, that book, those real quickly, those books are a compilation of books that they themselves wrote. His Jewish historians wrote this stuff, you see, and all they did was compile it into books. So you don't see too much input from the Nation of Islam concerning this. Every time you read something in there, you're gonna look, there's gonna be a little, you know, a 1, 2, 3 or something, an ABC, and you're gonna look in the footnotes and you're gonna see where this quote comes from. You know, so you quoting them, their historians, their documentations, and it's all laid out for you. I'm telling you, it's not what a lot of people think, and these people are still active today, trying to get their way pushed on the earth. So you just, you know, that's what I wanted to say.
I have to disagree with some of the things you just said,
Sure.
because I've been researching our story from the European perspective rather than the American perspective, and so the Romans, the Greeks, and the Romans were Edomites. That's it.
They were.
Yeah, and you can get that from the book of Jasher and the book of the rest of Esther. That tells you exactly how the Edomites became the Greeks and Romans. As far as England or Europe is concerned, well, the Edomites had a symbol. They had a symbol that they carried with them. Okay, it was the eagle. Okay, so you can follow that eagle around the world, right? Where they went, and you'll find that most of Europe was taken over by the eagle, but very specifically, there was a Petra eagle from Mount Seir. There was one in Egypt. There was one in Greece, but most notably in Rome, right? The Roman eagle. Then Germany, yeah, and then in the UK, something else happened. There was a different plan. Sorry about the noise. It's I'm in a public place. Something different happened when it got to this country. The eagle got mixed with the lion. So guess who the lion is? Right? That's part of the plan. And I found a book from the 1700s basically saying that was the plan. you know, to either mix out, breed out, you know, the Israelite. Okay. So this book was saying how these rich Israelites from Spain and Portugal, right, and they were very, very, you know, fantastically wealthy. They fell prey to the beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed women of England. And how it worked was they, when they got married, the children would get the mother's name and end up inheriting the wealth, and the wealth would be taken from the man and transferred over to the, you know, the new half-caste family, as it were. That was a plan. That's why the lion got mixed with the eagle. But then the eagle went on to America, and Obadiah really underlines it when he says, and I can't remember what the verse is, but it's though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, because Obadiah is only talking about the Edomites. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle and set thy nest among the stars. Well, who exalts themselves as the eagle and sets their nest among the stars? It's America. You know, what was the first words from the moon, supposedly? Yeah, the eagle has landed. It's not an accident. Yeah. So they weren't kicked out of England. They literally took over England in the 1600s. If you look at the essay by Benjamin Franklin from 1755, I believe it was, he described that all these European countries were black. He said all these countries are black. The only people of theirs that were in Europe were in Saxony, okay, in Saxony, England, and the newcomers in America. He said that is the whole of our you know, the whole of our people on the earth, okay. So it's Germans essentially. And if you know anything about the beginning of America, they weren't sure whether to speak English as a national language or German. It was a 50-50 thing, yeah, because essentially our Esau, or one of the bloodlines of Esau, is the Germanics. And when the Germanics took over England in the 1700s, when William of Orange took over, Oliver Cromwell, the first thing they did was attack Ireland, which was black, and Scotland, which was black, and literally they transported the Irish and Scottish and the Welsh to the Caribbean. And that's why, I don't know, you just have to listen to the Bayesian accent and also the Jamaican accent to a certain extent. You'll hear the Irish, you'll hear the Scottish in their accent. The real Irish and Scots are in the Caribbean. Those who are in Ireland and Scotland now are Germans, essentially descendants of Germans. So yeah, I disagree because yes, Esau, his blessing came into effect in what the time we call the Renaissance period. Okay, the rebirth, the restarting of white domination of Europe. Okay, and it's been 500 years. I think that it's time's up now for them. They only had a temporary blessing. Jacob got the real blessing, and their blessing is running out now. And you're starting to see a shift in the balance of power now, very slowly, but it's happening. That's what I've got to say. I don't mean to hold this. Sorry.
Well, I'll say this, if I may. You know, I'm going to push back a little on what you're saying, not all the way, because you are right, and I spoke in a broad terms, but since you made it, I'm going to be a little more specific. They were kicked out of Europe in several states. I mean, in several countries in Europe, they were kicked out. But there is a wing or a family of Esau. They're called Amalekite Edomites. These are the really devious ones. If you see in the scriptures where it says Yah, you know, has a war with Amalek forever, these are the ones, or certain families of the Amalekites, rose to power, they pretty much own Europe right now. They own China. They run the world. These people, that 1% you know, that's way up in the air, they run it. So yes, but the thing of it is, these Amalekites are ruthless. They don't care about their own people. They don't care about other wings of Esau or other families of Esau, because not all of these Edomites are complicit with this world domination. Some of them are, you know, some of them are reasonable. You know, you talk to them, they have nothing against you or anything. But there's a certain bankers in the really elite and powerful. These people run Europe. In fact, they were the ones who set up for the takeover of Israel, who moved them back to Israel, you know, back in the 1800s and early 1900s. You want to say something, Dave?
Sure. Yeah. I'm just going to say, just as there are 12 or 13 tribes of Israel, there are 12 or 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati or Edom. Yeah.
Right.
And just like we have a priest class, they have a priest class. Just as they have a royal class, they have a royal class. Yeah. So yeah, and these different classes end up fighting each other, but they join together against us.
Right.
The other people, they have little regard for, because they're not their bloodline. They'll call them, if you ever watch Harry Potter, they'll call them mudbloods, dirty blood, because these families only marry within their own bloodline. So anybody outside of those bloodlines, they regard them as little as they regard us. Yeah, because they're dirty blood. One drop of Negro blood makes you a Negro, remember?
Yeah. So that was the only thing what you're saying is correct about Obadiah and the eagle and all this. That is true, but I wasn't more specific. They were, but I still contend that and there were Edomites who were Romans and Greeks. They were the ones, the elite class, like you said, the ones who were teaching. You know, all these people. You know, you read about Plato and all these folks. They probably more than these people were Edomites. You know, they weren't Greeks per se. They were Edomites, but during the time of the Romans, they were kicked out. Esau was kicked out of the land. That was not our people. That was my point that I wanted to make in regard to some person named Yeshua, who was a freedom fighter during that, around that time frame. If there was a person named Yeshua, yeah, he wasn't an Israelite. He was probably an Edomite, you know, because it was the Maccabees, those folks who fought against the Romans with Masada and all this other kind of thing. That wasn't our people. That was them. You know, that was the point that I was trying to make.
Well, the thing that when I was listening to the brother in Israel, the way he disavowed JC, but then brought in this Yeshua character. They're the same character. It's just an alias. It doesn't matter what he's called.
Right.
There's only one story for this character. Yeah. I'd have said, well, okay, if there's a difference between the two, where is the story of Yeshua? What are his deeds and history? Yeah. If it's different from the JC character, well, where is his story? Yeah. Why isn't his story in the Old Testament? Yeah, in the Book of Remembrance, because the Book of Remembrance runs from the beginning all the way to the end days. Yeah. So the period of the New Testament is somewhere before the end of the book. So it should have been in the book. Yeah, if it was real, it would have been in the Old Testament and wouldn't be a need for a New Testament. That's why. Yeah. Anyway,
I agree.
No sign of him.
Any other thoughts?
Well, that man he knew the heat would be coming, so that's probably why he isn't here. But I mean, yeah, Dave, I second what you said. Is just a lot of our people are going to be listening to this, to be strengthened by it, to gain some knowledge from it, and the last thing we need to do is to cause confusion. He was not clear. There's many people who are beginning to understand that JC is not real, or they're beginning to question it based on what they've heard and read in the book of remembrance. Now, the information that we are to give them is to strengthen them within the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts, not to cause confusion. And I think pretty much the last segment that was done, it raised more questions than it gave answers, and it literally caused confusion.
Yeah, agreed, brothers. Well said. It's you know, to Brother Dave's point, you hit it on the head right there. They could share a name, but if the characteristics, if the things that are attributed to that character are not consistent, then it's a totally different person. In which case, how are you picking and choosing what's true and what's false in that regard, right? That's where we started questioning him individually. Or did he walk on water? You know, he claimed he didn't die for our sins, but what about the other stories? Did he feed people with bread and fish? What are you choosing to take from the story, and what are you disregarding? Because there's soccer players who have the name Jesus, you know, but just because they have the name doesn't mean they're the person, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, it's I'm just curious. I wish we could get him back, because I don't want to form words for him, but yeah, like you said, brother, more questions than answers for sure. And that's not where we want to go. That's not the direction we're headed by the Most High's grace.
He's writing to me now on Facebook, but I'm just waiting for his message to come through.
Gotcha.
Let him keep coming on.
I'd like to know what this JC character or Yeshua character or whoever it is, what did he actually do at the end of the day? When you read that whole story, what did he actually do? He didn't become king, you know, he didn't become the high priest, he didn't save anybody from anything. He talked a good game. He did some simple tricks that Dynamo could do better these days. Yeah. What did he actually do? I can't see it.
Well, from what I've read in the New Testament, the only thing he seemed to do that I saw was of any significance is that he completely contradicted what the Most High said in the Book of Remembrance. Now,
Everything.
if you want to call that an accomplishment, then go right ahead, you know. But you're right. What did he accomplish? What was his purpose? You know, there's no purpose for him. Listen, if you dig deep, you will find out that story of JC is a rehashing of an old Babylonian deity called Baal. I mean, it is Baal. I have a book here, as a matter of fact. It's one of the dictionaries that I have. He was the son. Baal was the son of El, a deity, you know, who the Canaanites called the strong one. They had a deity they called the strong one, and Baal was the son of the strong one, you know, and that is too familiar. That sounds too familiar. This JC is supposed to be the son of God, as they say. You know, it's all nonsense. The best thing to do with the New Testament is if you can, you know, you take the New Testament, and if you don't destroy the integrity of the book, try to rip it out and throw it away. That's how it can best be served.
Totally.
No. You don't throw it away. You keep it just in case there's another toilet paper crisis.
Well, there you go. If there's a toilet paper crisis, you can use it as a fire to get warm or something. You know, use it to light. But it's completely useless. It only tends to confuse, and that's the whole point. After all, is to keep us in a constant state of confusion. You know, and that's what's unfortunate, because our way back is through the keeping of these laws and humbling ourselves before the Creator. You know, holding on to these laws, doing them, and that's our strength. Okay, we draw strength from that. You know, and I'm telling you, I'm a witness to that. You know, if you do that, it'll keep your mind clear. It'll keep you centered. You know, when things are going around you and everything looks like it's in chaos, you be centered, because you're centered in the law. You're standing upon the rock of your salvation, and that is through the law and through Yah only. Don't buy into anything else.
You know, I've got a comment that's a bit different as it pertains to this New Testament. The New Testament is a must. And the reason why I say that is because it validates everything that the Most High has said would happen and would occur, as far as us taking a hold of the ways of the heathen, walking after their laws and customs, taking a hold of these deities, walking after them, going into these eminent high places, polluting the Most High's name in the midst of the heathen, and all of these things. So the New Testament, it's important in the fact that once we become awake, we have to be able to know the truth from a lie. And so the Most High's words validate his words to be true and validates that New Testament to be falsehood. And it also shows us where we have been in error. And we can look at this New Testament and say, you know what? The Most High was correct in his word when he said that we would take a hold of the heathen. We would pollute ourselves with the foods that we eat. We would take a hold of their customs. We would serve their idols. We would mingle our seed in the midst of their women, and that we will blaspheme his name in the midst of the heathen. So all of these things, we can look back now and see that now we're awake, that the Most High's word is indeed true, because this New Testament here is the very things that he spoke against, that he said that we would do. So in that respect, it is a great measuring stick for us to understand clearly that the Most High's word is true, because we can validate that using that New Testament, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, just one question. I just talked, he just sent me a message. Said he's in a meeting, so he said hopefully in about 30 minutes his meeting will finish. So he said he's going to try and join us, but if not, next time. That's what he says. So let's hope 30 minutes. If he can join us, it'd be good.
Henry, when Brother Yisrrael does come on, we're all very clear on where we stand with this.
Yeah.
So I don't see what he can bring to the table that would even be of any great importance to us going forward, or anyone listening. I would like him to clearly state that this whole JC character is falsehood. And if he can't state that, then he will have to show me clearly where the scriptures at any time, where any prophet ever prophesied of such a character doing anything. And these would be the evidence that I would need him to present to me. And I would need it to come from the words of the Most High's prophets out of Israel, not from some book written by strangers. So, I don't see him coming on here to defend that position. Nah, I don't see what good that will do our people. But for his own sake, for him to be able to clear the air, that would be good, because I'm certain that anyone that has looked at that segment are probably confused by what was said.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to sort of sound, I don't know what I mean, but it would, because I think they're in idolatry. They're in the land, and they're being kicked out of the land right now. They're in the process of being kicked out of the land. They're not meant to be there right now in the first place. The land is still trodden down by the Gentiles. They went there of their own accord. The Most High didn't gather them there, and they're still in idolatry. So it isn't their time yet. So yes, they've been treated pretty badly since they arrived there. I think I heard something about all their women got sterilized without their consent, and they've had a hard time over there, and now they're being kicked out. So that wouldn't happen to Israelites in righteousness. If this was their time, then they would be there, sort of leading the charge for us there. Yeah, but that's not the case. So it says to me that they're in the wrong, as it were. Yeah.
I have a question, right? Now, as far as that sterilization thing goes, that was done to many of the Ethiopian Jews that came into the land. Here's my question, right? What would you say the percentage of those who were gathered and taken into that land? How many of those peoples may have been taken there based on false statements? For example, I'm a Jew, I'm a this and I'm a that, and they just said these things in order to be taken out of dire straits, out of a nation that is a third world nation that cannot provide the necessary sustenance by which to live. So how many of those people may have said this just to be transported into a land that may be more prosperous than Ethiopia, so to speak? So I guess to be direct, how many of those people simply lied in order to get themselves into a better situation? Think that's possible?
I think it's not only possible, it's probable. I think it happened. I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, since you're speaking on that, Brother Malachi, I think what we've seen recently with this Benai Manasseh, I think that's another situation. You know, they're claiming to be of Israelite heritage, and I think they're trying to escape sort of impoverished situation in India, and they're trying to go back to Israel. Now, the condition is that they become Jews, that they go through the
Conversion process.
Yeah, conversion process, that
The
they become
system.
Jews, which they seem more than willing to do. You know, so I think, yeah, I think that is true. But one thing I will say about Ben Ami and the Dimona, they were also pressured to do the conversion. You know, they flat out refused. They say, well, there's no conversion. We're Israelites. We don't have to convert to be Israelites. So they stood on their square when it comes to that. And truthfully, it is prophesied that they would go back to the land. I mean, so Yah is going to hold them there, but they're not really connected to them. But Yah will let them stay there. I don't think they're ever going to get put out, even though the threats hang over them. They're not going to get put out successfully. They're going to be there until Yah brings back Zion and his people are returned to the land. Then some of them will join up with them. But yeah, Brother Malachi, I think there's quite a few of them probably did that. You know, they'll say anything to escape a situation. You know, and they were probably in dire straits in whatever land they were in, and they claimed to be of Israelite heritage, and they went back to the land, just as we see is going on right now. So that's not far-fetched idea.
Well, saying that though, I believe Isaiah 11:11 says that among the places that Israel will be gathered from is Elam and Persia. So I mean, I think that includes that area of India as well, what we call India today. So who's to say if they're not, you know, they're not those that will be gathered from that region.
And beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. So if you're gonna,
yes.
I'm certain that we're gonna be gathered. I'm certain that we may be quite shocked when the gathering of all the house of Israel is done before our eyes, and we see what that comprises of as far as skin tone, backgrounds, languages, and nations. I think that's going to be an interesting thing to see. And I'm thinking with that, and once that is done, and we all take a hold of the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts, at that time, all the what we would call the racisms and the bigotries would have ended. Once we take a hold of the Most High's law and we simply use that as the standard by which to judge our fellow man, then therefore I think one's pigmentation, one's language, one's heritage, etc., at that point it becomes irrelevant.
I said, when we do go back to the land, there's going to be a lot of strangers from all nations joining us.
Yeah, strangers will be correct. Strangers will. We'll have strangers too, but there'll be a clear distinction between who's a stranger and who is of the house of Israel. For the strangers also, because a lot of brothers, you know, our people have been downtrodden in these many nations. So many of our people have some vitriol towards our enemies, and I don't blame them for that. But some of them harbor it so much so, even some of the men of Israel who are aware of this word refuse to even accept or consider that the heathen or some of the heathen can possibly be saved. They refuse and reject that notion and that part of the word. Man, heathen can't be saved. They're all going to be destroyed, etc., etc., etc. But yet the Most High said specifically that those who will grab a hold of the skirt of a man of Israel and will walk after the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, precepts, and that once we are returned to the land, that the house of Israel will be returned back onto our former estates, and that we will also allocate land to the stranger that dwells in the midst of us. So we will have our land, they will have their land, two separate things, two separate people. So but however, those who are born in the land, those who are of the house of Israel, and those who are strangers that take a hold of the Most High's covenant, we are to treat them in kind, meaning the same, with the same respect, etc., for they are to follow the same laws that we are to follow. But many of our men are so bitter towards our enemies, they don't even want to see a stranger, even if he is of a contrite spirit. And these things are contrary to the Most High's word.
Well, yeah, I agree. I know that there are Israelites who have a lot of vitriol towards the heathen, and they cannot fathom that they will have a place also to worship on the holy mountain. We know that the scriptures are clear on what's going to take place. Unfortunately, for those who can't accept what the Most High says will be, well, they'll have no place. You know, either you're gonna listen. This earth, as you all know, this earth is in so much chaos. You know, right now, I'm telling you personally, and I'm sure some of you feel the same, if not all of you. It's gotten to the point where it's so bad. When we revert back to this law and the keeping of it, if we hear any nonsense of anyone trying to propagate, oh, well, let's deviate a little bit. Well, what about this? Well, this ain't so bad. They will be immediately smoked out and put to death. I'm not playing. I'm telling you, I humbly hope that Yah will allow me to be a part of his kingdom. And if he does, there'll be no tolerance for anyone who's not about following Yah's laws to the letter. If you come whispering anything other than the keeping of this law and the keeping of these principles and statutes and judgments, that's going to be a death sentence for you. It's because that's the law. You know, you don't let people just come and whisper anything in your ear to get you off from your travel along the road that the Most High set you on. You just don't do it. And there'll be low tolerance for it. You know, so you're right, brother Malachi. There are those of Israel who harbor certain sentiments, and it could be viable sentiments, you know, but when the time comes where Yah gathers his people, there's going to be no nonsense. You know, I think I feel strongly that Yah will deal with the wicked, because his book says so. And anyone, I don't care what your complexion or what your nationality, if you're not 100% committed to Yah and his way, you're going to be exposed. It's coming to that.
I'm not even sure if I am Israel. My family, yeah, sure, but how do I know that there wasn't a sneaky German somewhere in my bloodline? 300 years ago. I mean, how do I know? So,
Well,
the only thing I can think of is that I started to wake up at this time and realize who I was. So maybe that's the distinction. I don't know.
I think you're right. I think that I think because none of us knows, no one knows if there was a sneaky German or sneaky Irishman. We don't know.
Or a
But
Chinese man.
or Asian, you're right. But at this point, being that you woke up and that Yah has touched your mind to wake up to his laws and that they ought to be kept and everything, I think that is a clear distinction. You have to operate based on your knowledge and what he has brought to you and his mercy towards you. There's a lot of people out there that don't have a clue as to what's going on. They think, well, if I vote Democratic, that'll be the way. Or if I, here in America, if I vote Republican, hey, just vote independent. There are people that are stuck in that mold. So I feel like what you said, Dave, the fact that you woke up to this truth, that may be an indication, because we know Israel is to wake up into the knowledge of who they are. We know that we would have a stigma, the curses, a stigma on us. If you can see that stigma on yourself and you could look at yourself and say, well, I am clearly a quote unquote black man. I mean, I can't go into the white community and pass myself off as white. I can't go to the Asian community and say, hey, I'm one of you guys. They'll look at you crazy. To what people you belong. And if you woke up to that truth and that knowledge, I say that you should operate within that knowledge that's been brought to you, and you're Israel. That's the way I see it. Now, you're right. Back in the 300, 400 years ago, who knows who's snuck over the fence, but
I have something to add to that, and I have a question also. Now, as Dave said, he doesn't know if he's, maybe there's been some mixing on the male side in his family. But here's the thing. The Most High said he would have men in whose heart is his law, and he would raise them up in the midst of his people in the many nations where we've been scattered. And I'm thinking that we are just a few of those men. And there are many of them speaking many different languages, because if a man's in Japan and we need to raise him up, we can't do it in English. So you'd have to raise up a man in Japan that can speak Japanese, that can speak to those people. So many of our people are raising up. And I'm thinking that, the men that brought forth the law, they were all Israelites. And so therefore, the people that's standing up right now, Dave, etc., if we weren't Israelites, I don't even think we would have it within our spirit to do what we're doing. But let's say we're not. It doesn't matter. Let's say we're not. It doesn't matter, for the simple fact that if we take a hold of the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts, whether it will be of Israel or of the stranger, we still at that point come under the bond of the covenant, which affords us the Most High's protection. So either way, whether we are Israel or not, the fact that we return unto the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts, that makes us set apart from everyone else. So it's beneficial either way, whether you are of the house of Israel or whether you are not. But it is my feeling that we are of the house of Israel, because no other nation has ever stood up and is saying what we are saying today. There has not been a Jewish man anywhere that stood up and told people of all the other nations that they need to return unto the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, precepts. I've never heard it from a Jewish man. I've never heard it from a Christian man or anyone. I've never heard it from an Indian man. I've never heard it from an Iranian man. I've never heard it from a Chinese man. So the only people that I've ever heard that has stood up espousing the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, precepts, and encouraging people of Israel, as well as those of the nations, to do so, has been Israelites. Now, here's my question pertaining to that. Dave, that video that you sent me, I've seen that years ago, where that man said, my father's name was such and such and such and such and such and such, and somewhere a couple of generations back, his great great grandfather, something like that, is actually a black man. And that there were many of them in England, and they were kind of wondering where have they all gone. So here's the thing, my question pertaining to this curse or to these curses. That man, if you were to look at him, appears to be a normal, regular European man. Now, if he is an Israelite via his Y chromosome, what curses has he faced or would he face? Because he's still an Israelite. And I'm certain if we stepped into a bank or stepped into a room or we were being arrested, that man would not be treated like we would be treated based on appearance alone. So I would be interested to know exactly how does the curses affect a man such as him who doesn't look anything like us. Go ahead, Dave.
But right now, right, the curses aren't falling on us, really.
Correct. Correct.
The only ones I believe they're falling on are the ones who aren't following the Moses law, statutes, and commandments, and actually going against them.
I agree.
Because guess I've never been whipped. I've never had to had pick cotton or anything. So I think we've spent this last generation coming out of all that. We're just seeing the last of the afflictions, and even those are turning around now, because it's not just us who are being hunted by police now. It's like everyone is being hunted by the police. All just as it says in Deuteronomy 30, I believe, all those curses are turning around on the others now. The opioid crisis is a good example. They created those drugs for our people to not only get us hooked, but to use it as a hook to get us into the justice system, right? But now it's turning on them, because it's for the most part we're turning away from those drugs and they're turning to them. So yes, I don't think our generation has faced anything. If our ancestors looked at us moaning about our plight, they'll be laughing at us, because yeah.
I hear your point, Dave, but here's the thing, right? And I use myself as an example. I've not been incarcerated or take part in any drinking or smoking or any drugs of any kind. Or any kind of criminal activity against my people or anyone else. However, there is a psychological effect on our males and our children and our people when every time we turn on our TV, one of us is being shot down, one of us is being murdered. Doesn't matter who murdered us, whether it was one that looked like us or one that didn't. So we continue to see ourselves be victimized, whether it be by each other or other people, and we seem to have no might in our hand by which to actually change our current circumstances. If you're seeing that as a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 50-year-old, if you've seen this type of trauma, this type of negativity about you and your people, the killing, the drugged out individuals, the incarceration, if you're seeing this all of your life, psychologically, it has an effect on you. And I'm certain that is a part of the curse as well. In the house of Israel, when one of us messed up, the whole nation paid. So that's why we always have to, hey, you did something that was egregious, we had to kill you. That way that evil is not spread throughout the congregation. So when we see these things, it affects our psyche. So not because I haven't picked cotton and because no one has ever whipped me or locked me up, I still, when I see these things, no one's ever shot me down or shot down my son. But once I start understanding that we are a family and we are of the house of Israel, when I see another brother shot down, I understand that's one of my brothers. That's one of my uncles. That's one of my fathers. And it could have possibly been me. So it has a psychological effect on me in that regard. And so you carry that burden, you carry that weight. So that's one way of experiencing the curses without experiencing them as the individual. But I agree with you on this statement, as you said before, that the persons or the people that are actually enduring these hardships right now and continuing to do so are those who have not turned back to the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. So in my view, what allows me to, I wouldn't say distance myself, but I would say what allows me to best handle these types of scenarios when I see them on the TV and elsewhere, my first question is, I wonder if that man was following the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. And what caused the Most High to bring violence and to bring evil onto him and his house? And so I started looking at the situations a bit differently as I take the law and use that as a standard to get a sense of why certain things transpired.
I think that, oh, sorry, something happened. I just lost. What were we talking about?
Dave, you may be separate from
Focus,
maybe separate from the onset of dementia.
Focus.
I know.
What's in that glass, sir?
Daddy. Oh man,
There's
strong drink.
There's a baby screaming and stuff down there, and I'm like, and yeah. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Curses. It was the curses, right? It was all about the curses.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's
Right.
Henry.
So I was just going to say the now I grew up in a white community, completely white community. We were the only family for like 15-20 miles, right? So what I realized was me and my brother and sisters never got the programming that was going on in that community. So we grew up different from other people that we met after subsequently, because there not only television, not only the societal norms against us, but there's this invisible programming that's always going on from school, from friends, and all this sort of thing. My family just grew up without the limitations that were placed on us. Now, there was a time when I was living in America, I was asked to go and speak to some children in a school that was in a very deprived area, a place called Patterson, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, if you know it, then you know it's very
rough.
Yeah, it's a rough area.
Yeah.
So I went to school there, and I was a computer programmer and volunteer firefighter. So I went along with my firefighter gear, and I started telling them about what I was doing as a programmer, and then I got them to got one of them to dress up in my firefighter gear and stuff. The thing is, none of them knew that becoming a programmer or becoming a firefighter was possible for them. There was such a low expectation in that school for them that they had no idea they could be. And by the end of the 2 or 3 hours that I was there was a couple of girls who picked up what I just taught them a little bit about web programming. These 2 girls got it immediately, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're programmers now, because they literally just got it because they suddenly saw that it was possible. Okay, now what I'm saying is, yes, I know the program is still there, but it's having less of an effect. Yes, we're seeing our brothers being shot down, right? But what I'm also seeing is where we would get the police called on us for just living our lives. But that's never changed. It's always been happening, right? But now there's a pushback for the first time. Yeah, we're not just going yes, yeah. and running. No, we're saying this isn't right. Yeah, look at this woman. Look at what she's doing, and everyone's saying, oh, yeah, that's not fair. Yeah, so it's a pushback for the first time ever. That's what I'm saying. It's we're not in the same place as we've always been. We're at the end of our captivity and affliction. Yeah. Yes, it's still going on, but this is the last gasp of that.
Agreed. Now let me get to my original question. The gentleman, the link you just sent me. Like I said, I've seen that story before. Now that man looks like a regular European to anyone. Now here's the thing as it relates to the curses. He seems to be somewhere in his 60s. If you and I and that man were in a environment, it is my understanding that we would not be treated the same. So what my question would be this, and I don't think Brother Benai has seen this program. No, Kwame probably haven't, so it may be Delvin and possibly Prince. But when you take it all into account, and we're supposed to be under these curses, technically that man would be an Israelite per se. Can't say that for sure, but per se. How would he fit the curses when he can pass and looks clearly like a regular European? Would he experience the curses and the hardships that we have? Huh?
How do you fit the curses?
How do I? Well, my family has been enslaved.
No. How do you fit the curses? That's what I'm saying.
I'm telling you, that's how I fit the curses. My family has been enslaved. I've experienced the hardship as far as the racism, et cetera, that we actually experience in all of these many nations, the discriminations, and things of the like, and the unfairness and the injustice. I've experienced those. And if I haven't experienced it directly, I've seen it or know people that have. And I have to carry that with me in the things that I say, in the things that I do. And as a European, I don't think he has to deal with that.
Right. Well, what I'm not saying you're right or wrong. Actually, I can't say you're right or wrong. But how do we know that he has experienced some things that he can't explain? Why? Why?
Look, I get what you're saying, but my point is this: I'm speaking to the obvious. I'm speaking to the obvious. Meaning, if we were to enter a room, we would be seen as most threatening. Number one, for example, because police. So I can see a policeman seeing that man and walking up to him and dealing with him totally different than you would you or I, based on his appearance.
Okay. Have you seen the film Trick Baby?
Trick Baby, I have not.
Right. If you can go and find it on YouTube, but you might want to just see. It's called Trick Baby dinner party scene. Okay.
So Baby dinner party. I look for it.
Right. So the setup is right. Every now and again in the Black community, right, a child is born who can pass.
Yeah.
Yes. So the story of Trick Baby, they call them a Trick Baby. Yeah. The story of Trick Baby is that he infiltrates white society, and he's at a dinner party where they're talking about us, and so in that instance, yeah, this guy's still a black guy, but he passes, so he automatically doesn't get all the problems that we will get. So does that mean he's not an Israelite? He's not counted, even though he's got brothers and sisters who can't pass?
Yeah, I mean, he can pass. Maybe he would have to deal with it from a psychological perspective. But if you're able to pass, that means you're entitled to, or you have access to resources that you and I may not have access to, just based on how he looks. And part of the curse is that you will not have access to these resources. You will be trodden down. So someone who is passing, so to speak, and can be accepted in white society, he may have to deal with sitting at the dinner table and hearing people talk about it. People, but they're unaware that he's one one of us. That may be the psychological trauma he may have to deal with, but he's able to have access to all the other perks that comes along with looking like the way he looks. You see what I'm saying? So my thing is, if these curses are supposed to follow all of the house of Israel, then I certainly would like to see how, let's say this man is an Israelite or someone who is an Israelite that's passing, I would be curious to find out how the curses has been upon them and in what way, because it would be certainly different for them and for one of us, I would think.
Well, I'm just saying that I can't say, you know, well, all right, I can say I've experienced stuff, but you know, maybe I'm just you know, hard-headed or whatever, but nothing, you know, none of this, all this stuff bounces off me, you know. Racism bounces off me. I don't give a toss about racism. You know, yes, I've had a okay, I got a job offer in another country, in Ireland, in Dublin. Okay, so I was offered this job because my second name's Murphy, yeah, and I don't sound like a black guy, yeah, I sound like a Londoner. So so I had a telephone interview. I got the job through telephone interviews. I got offered the job. They flew me out there. They saw me in the lobby, and the guy went, oh. And then all of a sudden, that job was already gone, even though they'd offered it to me and flew me over. Yeah. So, you know, I've had that happen to me. I had that sort of brought right into my face. But, you know, it didn't hurt me in any way. It's just like, well, a load of idiots. I'm glad I didn't end up working there, you know. So I don't count. I don't feel like I'm cursed in any way, you know. And I'm pretty sure if you don't have the programming, right, to be a victim, and I'm not saying all black people are victims. I'm saying if you don't have that programming, then you won't actually see any of this as part of the curses. Does that make any sense?
That does make sense to me, Dave. But here's the flip side of that.
Right.
That may be a necessary built-in mechanism by which to keep on moving, by which to survive, because this is a construct that we cannot defeat and we cannot overcome. We don't have the means by which to do so. So that comes along. I mean, what you've just said is admirable, and it's a great attitude to have to continue moving forward. Because if you ever come to the understanding that, look, this is overwhelming, unsurmountable, I would just give up, because there'll be no moving forward. And that also brings me to this point. I think some people are just to the point to where they have to justify certain things. For example, you may have a man that may have all sorts of problems in his household, with his family, and with himself. And the Most High has plagued them in every way possible. But if you ask him how he's doing, he will tell you he is blessed and highly favored, when his whole house is falling apart because the Most High has plagued them. So we have learned to, or we have become accepting of these plagues. And so therefore, all the things that are bad, we're considering them to be good in order to kind of fool ourselves into accepting our current circumstance in order to survive. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I think that is something that some of our people do in order to just to keep on moving.
That was just